We're given the graph of y equals -3 cosine, -2 theta plus pi over 5 plus 1.5. We want to graph it. So this is the graph of it, but I'm going to show you how to get that. First, I'm going to factor out a -2. So you have theta minus pi over 10 plus 1.5. Now from this we can get the amplitude. That's going to be the number in front of the cosine. And we're going to keep the positive version of it, which is 3. The period is 2 pi over the coefficient of theta, which is 2. Again, ignoring the negative. And now we need a phase shift. So the phase shift is pi over 10 to the right. And the vertical shift is going to be 1.5 up. Now I should make a comment here that cosine of negative theta is the same thing as cosine of theta. So what that means is this negative is the same thing as if it was positive. So you can basically ignore that negative. Okay, now we want to graph this from 0 to 2 pi. Normally, you would go from 0 to pi because that's the period. But because we're going to be because we want to go to 2 pi, we have to extend it. So the idea here is to split this up into 4 different pieces. So first split it in half. That's going to be pi over 2. Split it in half again is pi over 4. Split this in half is 3 pi over 4. Same thing here, 3 pi over 2. Split this in half is, let's see, think of this as 2 pi over 2 plus 3 pi over 2 is 5 pi over 2, so that's 5 pi over 4. And then this will be 7 pi over 4. Okay, but we have a phase shift of pi over 10, so you have to add pi over 10 to everything. So now 0 is going to be moved to pi over 10. Pi over 4 plus pi over 10. That is given to us as 7 pi over 20. So you can do the calculation yourself. You want to add pi over 2 to pi over 10. And it's going to be up here. So that's going to be pi over 2. You can think of that as like 5 pi over 10. Plus pi over 10 is 6 pi over 10, which is 3 pi over 5. So that's going to be 3 pi over 5. And then 3 pi over 4 plus pi over 10. That's given to us over here. That is 17 pi over 20. And then pi plus pi over 10. That is 11 pi over 10. Now we want to add 5 pi over 4 to pi over 10. So that's going to be, well, here is a pattern, by the way. If you convert these all with 20, the denominator of 20, what we're really doing is adding, 5 pi over 20 for each one. So you're just going to continue the pattern. 22 pi over 20 plus 5 pi over 20 is 27 pi over 20. And then add 5 pi more. That's 32 pi over 20, which is 8 pi over 8 pi over 5. And then we continue to add 5 pi over 20, which is 37 pi over 20. And then we add another 5 pi over 20. So that's 42 pi over 20. That's 21 pi over 10. So that's just a little above 2 pi. Okay, so that's going to be the interval here for x. And basically, if we want to go to 0, we want to go one more to the left here from pi over 10. So that means we have to subtract by 5 pi over 20. So that's going to be negative 3 pi over 20. So if you see here, it's negative 3 pi over 20. But we want to cut it off at 0. So at 0, it's going to be negative 0.927. So this is how you do it. Cosine starts either a maximum or a minimum. Here it's going to be a minimum. But what is the minimum? With the amplitude of 3, you want to go from negative 3 to 3. But we have a vertical shift of 1.5. So you add 1.5 to this and get 4.5 and negative 1.5. Now you still need the middle. What's halfway between 4.5 and negative 1.5? You add these to get 3, divided by 2 is 1.5. So the idea is so you started at a minimum. The minimum here is negative 1.5. So that's going to be down here. So that's at pi over 10. So if you move to the left here, which we said is negative 3 pi over 20, that's going to be the middle, which is 1.5 we said. So let me just put here max, middle, minimum. But you can stop it at 0. 0, you just plug in theta equals 0 and you get negative 0.927. Okay, what's after pi over 10? That's 7 pi over 20. You go from the minimum to the middle here. The middle is 1.5. And then we go to the next one, which is 3 pi over 5. That's up here. 3 pi over 5, that's the maximum, which is 4.5. Now from the maximum, you go down to the middle, which is 17 pi over 20. That's this guy right here, 17 pi over 20. And the middle we said is 1.5. Now from the middle, you go down to the minimum, which is at 11 pi over 10. That's this over here. The minimum we said is negative 1.5. After the minimum, we go to the middle, which is 27 pi over 20. And the middle we said it has a y value of 1.5. Then after 27 pi over 20, we go to 8 pi over 5. That's going to be up here. And that's the maximum, which we said is 4.5. We move on to 37 pi over 20. That's going to be the middle here, which is 1.5. And if you want, you can go to the minimum at 21 pi over 20, which is like somewhere over here. I did not include this in the graph because we only want from 0 to 2 pi. So you can stop it at 2 pi, which is negative 0.927. And it should match the initial here because we went around 2 pi. If you see the x here, the difference is 2 pi, which is 2 periods. So you should end where you start. And that's our graph.